Roar! Hey, how's it going? It's Satyam. I'm here, obviously, at Konalani Yoga Ashram, live and teach. I'm sitting here with Durga and her vehicle in the yogic tradition, her tiger, which moves her around throughout the world. The animal realm has always, since the beginning, and even in the yogic tradition, represented sort of ways that we move ourselves through space. These deities ride on these animals, they help them move through the world. In this world that we move through on a daily basis, they really do represent grace and strength combined. And primal movements, or closed chain movements, or animal movements, whatever you want to call them, they bring this strength and grace to our yoga practice as well. It's really fun. When you start learning how to do them well, you'd be surprised how many spots in your practice you can insert a fun primal or animal movement that can really liven up your postures, that can bring buoyancy, flexibility, and strength to your movements. And so let's take a minute right now. Let's learn a few movements, learn how to do them well, sort of the foundations, and then you can start playing with them in your own yoga practice. Here we go. Let's start with just a little foot massage. Just go ahead and start pressing into the ball of the foot. You can bring a little space between the toes if you like to get your fingers between the toes and move your foot in small circles. Also massaging on top of the foot between the toes. Moving your hands down through the arch of the foot. You can massage the sides of that arch as well. And so the feet are how we communicate with the earth. This December we're going to be working a lot with our shoulders. But as we'll see in the next 10 minutes or so as we work together, your feet have a lot to do with that communication. When your hands are pressing through the earth, usually your feet are also going to be pressing through the earth, and you need these sensors to be turned on to help your whole chain fire well. You can bring your fingers up to the heel. You can feel the heel pad. Working your way around to the back of the heel. It's a little bit more awkward to massage, but try to give some space around the ankle. Maybe even up the Achilles tendon. And then sometimes it just feels good to go all the way up the calf. You never know how far that's going to take you. Sometimes you can really feel like a certain, muscle group that'll feel the posterior chain will go all the way up. And you'll feel yourself massaging all the way from the foot up, but it's up to you. All right, so from there you can tuck that leg in. We'll just give the other foot a little bit of love. Again, you can start with the fingers between the toes. Draw some big circles. And then we'll start working through the big toe mound, little toe mound, and the top of the foot. Eventually even to the arch. The inside of that arch. Working way back to the heel. See, right now you're literally just turning on your awareness in your foot. You've got to do a lot. Literally just you touching it's doing a lot. Up through the Achilles, the ankle. And up, optional, through the calf. See how high up you can feel that chain of musculature, perhaps. Starts to release all the way up. Excellent. And we'll just go ahead and take these legs, spin them out behind you into a table. And then we'll wake up some of the sensors in the hands with them right underneath the shoulders. You already worked through this with a baya perhaps, but visualize a diamond. The hands are going to be shoulder width apart. And then you're going to sort of pull that diamond. This is on your mat, by the way. You're going to pull that diamond apart isometrically as your heart pulls through your shoulders. And then you're going to push the hands, again, isometrically towards the peak of that diamond as you round the back. And just try to feel the hands working against the floor and how the hands are sending signals up through the arms, through the spine to help you move cohesively. You can really feel the whole chain of work through your body. Excellent. Okay, and then from there, let's bring those hands maybe a little bit ahead. I want you to tuck your toes under and just see if you can float your knees a little bit above the floor. Now, right away, that could be a lot on your arches. Keep those knees down if it feels like it's a lot. Just have those toes tucked underneath and just draw some circles with the hips. Right now, you're actually continuing to wake up your feet, especially those arches, but just having the toes tucked and applying this gentle pressure and allowing that pressure to disperse and move, not static. Awesome. From there, we'll just lift those knees up just a little bit. And I want you to paw the mat like a cat or like a tiger. And you're going to paw the mat and alternate lifting the opposite hand and foot. So you'll see here, opposite hand and foot, opposite hand and foot. You're just pawing the mat. This is helping you to interact with the floor in a dynamic way so you don't feel all the weight of gravity pulling you down, but you feel this play, this way that you work with your body. Good. Rest for a second. You can sit back on your heels, or if that's a lot, of course, you can flatten out those feet, whichever is feeling okay for you. Just go ahead and bend the wrist the other way for a second. Shake it out. Bend the wrist the other way for a second. Shake it out. Good. And then we'll plant those hands again. All right, so from there, hover the knees just a little bit off the floor. Give me a little tiger right here. And you're going to start to move that tiger across the floor. You might notice our amazing new floor. We actually got this floor, a big part of the reason was so that we could come off of our mat. Take your time with this, making sure it's alternating hands and feet, and see if you can switch it and go in reverse. That does take an extra moment, usually mentally. You're going to find your way back to your mat. Cool. And then you're going to sit back down. Again, how you like to sit back down. You can sit like this. You can tuck the toes. You can sit cross-legged. But we're just going to give our wrists a little break. Just give them a little shake. So those are tiger walks. Pretty easy to do, but you want to feel that buoyancy that we developed from just pawing the mat. That buoyancy is pretty important. You don't want the limbs locked out. You want a little buoyancy in the joints, a little buoyancy in your body, and your movement should reflect that. Okay? So you can bring your hands together, do some circular motions with your wrists. Those tiger walks could easily fit into anytime you're doing cat-cow, just pop into a tiger walk. You know, before you do down dog, do a couple tiger walks. And shake it out. All right, next up, we're going to work our way into some bear walks, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But it starts, go ahead and start back in table for a sec. Give yourself that little floating moment, just a couple little pawing of the mat, and then bring your right foot outside the right hand, and let your left knee sort of cheat back, and start to draw some hula hoops with your hips. I have maybe a little bit longer arms than you might, and you might feel better if you had a little block under there, just to keep that heart lifted, but again, just totally optional. You can use tended fingertips as well. The hula hoops, start to unload the psoas here on the opposite leg. Then you can send those hips back and just let the hamstring start to wake up as you draw the heel towards you ever so slightly. That awakens the hamstring. Then you might turn towards your leg a little bit and just wag your tail. So with the heel drawing toward you ever so slightly, the wagging of the tail is pretty effective. Stretching the hamstring. Dynamic. And then we're going to have a little fun. I want you to switch your weight forward. You're now facing a little diagonally on your mat. And shift that back knee in until it's sort of able to support you in a, what we call almost like a mini squat, where you're supporting the weight of your body, but your knees are pretty deeply bent. Okay, just pause, let this sort of fire, let these muscles be trained. Your feet are really waking up now. They're communicating a lot to your body. You can see me even keeping my balance right now. All right, and then we're going to relax down. Okay, momentum. big part of understanding primal movements, is moving with control, but also using a natural amount of momentum in your finished movements. Okay, so for example, we're going to try this. I want you to just start sort of rocking forward and back and try to use your momentum to stand up. Now, push off the back foot and watch the weight shift. Push off the back, the shifts to the standing foot, and you stand up. Now, reach the leg back, find your mini squat. The back foot is the first sort of guide. As it pushes forward, that's a crucial moment. And then your other crucial moment is feeling the other foot underneath you. Try to see how the feet are telling your body how to stand up. Another little trick, look where you want to go. So look slightly up and forward when you stand up. The goal here is this light standing up that almost feels effortless, similar to how that tiger moves through the forest. You know, similar to how an animal might pause. Almost feels like they just pause time. All right, so that standing up motion, anytime you're coming to standing, you can enjoy, you can practice that. It's super fun. It gets better every time you do it. And you'd be surprised how much room for growth there is in something so simple. Okay, so standing up. Primal movement number 2 for us today. You'll come back. All right. Now you know we got to do the other side. Okay, so to do the other side, I want you to actually just take that leg behind you, plant the hand down, and you're going to just shift your weight onto your bum, be facing away from me for a second. Bring your hands all the way to the other side of you, and then lift your sit bones up in your back and your table. You can paw the mat a little bit. We haven't been on our hands for a few moments. Cool. And then we'll bring that left foot outside and dropping the right knee. And we start with our hula hoops, and you give yourself a little space right here. If your foot was inside the hands, there's just not enough space to get that nice liberal movement. So let your hips enjoy a little space here. Drawing some big circles or little circles. Feel your feet moving you through space. You think your hips are moving you? They're not. Your feet are moving you right now. Pressing forward, pressing back. This kind of communication is what's going to enable us to stand up in a moment with a lot of grace. Your feet are moving you. Let those hips sort of sway back. You're welcome to face the leg a little more if that feels more natural. A little drawing back of the heel engages the back of the leg so that when you wag the tail, you feel a nice stretch on the back of the leg, but simultaneously you feel a little engagement. The whole thing's moving. Really enjoyable, I hope, for you. Great, and then we're going to shift our perspective sort of diagonally towards the other side. We already did this on the previous side, so this should be even easier. You can jump right into it right now. You can listen for a few cues. So we're going to bring the knee up and find that support under our body. You can test it out for a second here. Get yourself a little buoyancy. You see how I'm buoyant? I'm not just holding static. You know, I'm still working, you know, but there's just this lightness. Okay. And let's put it together into something functional. So your momentum is coming from your feet. The back foot presses and the weight shifts into the front foot. Now let that happen as you turn your gaze up and stand up. Try it a couple more times. Feel and let momentum be a part of your movement. It's not isolated. Everything in nature moves with momentum. Last one. Shifting weight, enjoy momentum. Even going back. Whew. You know, maybe you come down a little bit differently than you're used to because you're letting your body enjoy it. Cool. So same as before, we're going to plant our right hand. We'll step our right leg straight behind us. Flip onto our butt. Turn the hands to the other side, and we're back in table. Take a moment here. You can just sit back on your heels. Just do a little bit more for the wrists. Just we're about to be on them. This time we're going to turn the hand out, grab underneath, and then push forward through the forearm while pulling back on the knuckles. Come back to your breath right now. Steady out your breath and make this stretch really nice and simple. Slowly extend your arm and give your arm a little shake. Other side, palm out, bend wrist, and then pull back on the hand. Soften your gaze. Slowly reach forward, shake it out, and then relax your feet if they're feeling a little fatigued. Give them a second, and just take a moment to absorb before our last movement. There's so many reasons we do these types of movements. One, of course, to make our bodies move more functionally. Two, to make things just more enjoyable and more fun on our yoga mat. But three, and I'm not even going to say there's only three, but essentially we're doing all this stuff, everything on this mat, to hone in our focus and our awareness on the present. Primal movements like these and so many other things that we do in yoga, they pull you into the present. They make the present more fun. They make the present more functional, and they make you more a part of the present. And so always coming back to that. We're not doing this so we can do handstands, although that'll be fun when we get to it. But if handstands don't make you more conscious, what's the point? So taking a moment to just absorb. And we're going to move into couple more, last two, bear walks, which are really a variation on downward dog. You'll be really familiar with it. And so starting from table, I want to establish a little buoyancy. It's really important. And so right here, right away, just sort of paw the mat a little bit, just get things moving. Then tuck those toes if they aren't already. You sway the hips a little bit. And then we'll float the knees. And then again, finding that lightness, that buoyancy. Walk those hands a little bit further ahead. And I want you to just pause for a moment and just try and see if you can take that buoyancy into sort of a downward dog kind of setup, where you're going to sort of push down and let the feet and hands press down. You're up on your tiptoes. And just feel that sort of lightness of that pawing, that lightness as you lift up. And then let the heels work away from your hips. You might have to adjust all aspects of your stance, from width of hands and feet to distance between them. Let the hips move. Bend the elbows and knees just a little bit. Keep those joints sort of available. And then play with that little tiger aspect, that buoyancy in here. You're going to keep those hips really nice and lifted, and then let your limbs be pretty long, just the slightest bend. And you bring the right hand forward and the left foot forward. And so you're almost fully extended through your limbs, not locked out. Opposite hand and foot move you across the mat. These are basically, called bear walks, but, they're so close to downward dog. As a yogi, it's hard not to call them down dog walks. But you're feeling, take your time switching direction to go backwards. You can really feel how this unlocks a lot of tightness in our spine. Every time I insert this into my practice, I'm grateful I did it. Always seems to feel good when you do it. You want to go a little bit deeper with it. Go in between sort of a tiger and a bear, and you're doing the same walks, but with a little bit deeper bend in your elbows and knees. And it just adds a degree of difficulty to that same movement. But remember, be present with that difficulty. Quality should not be lacking. All the way back to our mat, to an easy dog, to bending our knees, to back on our heels in a comfortable way. Maybe you're on a block right now. Grab your hands and just make some circles. Find your breath again, just like we did before. Before we approach our final movement, just get in touch with your breath. Some light flicking out of the wrists. One more breath here. All right, and our last movement really utilizes our relationship of our feet to the floor, I'm pointing to mine, and our hands to the floor. And these are, these gorilla walks or these gorilla hops, whatever you want to call them. And the reason the hands and the feet both play a big role, you think your eyes see the hands in front of you and they're like, oh, this is all about my hands. When I can sort of float onto my hands, oh, that's all about my hands. You'd be surprised. The feet are what are propelling you into the air. So your body's getting a lot more information from your feet here than it is your hands. Your hands are stabilizing you, and that's super important. But the feet are what are literally moving you through space. So start with your hands in front of you and just start to shift your weight forward and back, feet to hands. And you can just sort of feel the dynamic. Do you feel how much of that is lower body and how the upper body is really just sort of there as a support mechanism? Okay, take a moment. And then from there, we're going to start to just float the feet off the floor. Again, notice if you can feel those feet leave the floor, you're going to have more information to process this movement, which means you'll do it more skillfully if you can feel the feet press against the floor. Take a breath. Just go one more notch up. Hands are going to plant in front. Step off of the mat. Okay, so 2 levels to this. Hands are going to do the same thing. We're going to float the feet onto the mat and then push there. The feet are moving you through space. The arms are stabilizing you through space. You get good at that, you can hop the whole mat. Again, feel the feet first, feel the arms second, stabilizing you through space. That can fit in almost anywhere in your practice. It's one of my favorite ways to sort of get off the mat and also to experiment with momentum, with utilizing more of a relationship with your feet, waking up the shoulders in a really gradual way. So hopefully for you, you can start building that into your practice little by little. So a couple. And as we finish up together right now, go ahead and just find a comfortable way to sit. We actually just did quite a bit of movement, which generated a lot of energy. And so as you feel that breath flow getting more and more natural, let's take this last minute together to pull our focus inward and really benefit from the work we did. And so a comfortable way to sit for you, thumb and forefinger together, shoulders relaxed down the back. And notice if there's any increased sort of levity and lightness in your spine. Let it move around a little bit. Let the eyes close. Try a slight smile. And notice that little bit of contentment that wells up. Feel the fullness of your breath in this moment. You might be breathing more fully and more easily than you did before our practice, and that's worth noting. Notice the circulation in your body. Notice if the limbs feel full, full of energy. Arms and legs have been working. We got that circulation all the way to the tips. And then slow down your breath a little bit And see if you can visualize this center line right down the middle of the body. Interestingly enough, primal movements are usually pretty asymmetrical, and there's not a whole lot of attention on, hips this way, foot this way, hands this way. Yet they center you dramatically. See if you can feel that center line of your body very easily at this moment. Let the eyes flutter open. Hey, thank you so much for practicing, for trying some of these movements. I hope they really benefit your practice, and we really look forward to exploring more movements like these and how they integrate into our inversions and shoulder-related postures this December in our upper level training. Aloha, hope to see you soon.